had to come damn good. Would you please welcome the Calypso King of the world? Let me bring on Swinger Francisco, the mighty. Who there? Sparrow, the bird. Who there? Hey, Sparrow. Baba na 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 na. Oh no 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 no. La na 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 na. Na 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 na. He said, I am Nelson Mandela, freedom fighter, liberator of my people in South Africa. He said, should it become necessary for me to deal with the devil to ensure the success of my mission, then so be it, Mr. Ted Koppel. So in response to your question for my association with Fidel Castro, Yasser Arafat, Muammar Gaddafi, even Saddam Hussein, I owe no apology. Bambede, bandede, ya, bandede, na, baba na bandida, na, 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 baba na, 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 interviewing Nelson Mandela on a TV show. Ted Koppel was the interviewer. I want you to know. He wanted Mandela to condemn Muammar Gaddafi, Fidel Castro, Yasser Arafat, right there on TV. Mandela said, well, these people helped me when apartheid was on the rise. I dealt with them out of necessity, so I do not apologize. You hear? Though it grieves me to see the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my bed to curtail my rest. I've been tortured and suffered immensely. They isolate me, incarcerate me. Still, in spite of the barbarous cruelty, I will never apologize for my identity. Yeah. Tell them. Oh, yo, yo. And then he said, no apology for my color, it is part of me. I'm wearing it bravely with honor, pride and dignity. How can I say sorry for a birthright made proud by my forefathers? A skin that blends with the darkest of night, yet distinguishes me from others. There were times I know because of it, tears of sorrow had filled my eyes. But the Lord made me free in spirit, and I do not apologize. You hear? Though it brings me to see the people suffering, chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my neck to curtail my rest. They subject me to gross inhumanity, brutality, hostility. Yet no matter how rough they treated me, I will never apologize for my identity. Will you apologize to anybody for your identity? Neither will I. And then he said, I owe no apology. Personally, I have done no wrong. And what I have endured physically has made me more strong. How can I be ashamed of a mind that refuses to be twisted? A heart as warm as the morning sunshine, a character so gifted with these trials and tribulations. I am fulfilling destiny in my quest for emancipation. I owe no apology. You hear? Though it brings me to see all the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my head to curtail my rest. I've had my share of pain and misery. It was ghastly, downright nasty. They try hard, but they fail miserably. Cause I've never apologized for my identity. Mandela, Amanda. The last thing he said was, no apology from a culture. It suits me fine. The folklore of all my ancestors makes me feel sublime. I am not repentant of a music that expresses how I feel. The sweet melodies come from deep in the soul, enriching all my ideals. He said the rhythm does give me courage, and the lyrics does make me wise. So in spite of all the advantage, I will not apologize. You hear? Though it brings me to see all the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my head to curtail my rest. Their exercises were in futility. That's when they gave me psychotherapy. But they surrendered while now I'm shouting victory. Never apologize for my identity. Liberator of my people in South Africa. He said, should it become necessary for me to deal with the devil to ensure the success of my mission, then so be it, Mr. Ted Koppel. So in response to your question for my association with Fidel Castro, Yasser Arafat, Muammar Gaddafi, even Saddam Hussein, I owe no apology. Bambede. Interviewing Nelson Mandela on a TV show. Ted Koppel was the interviewer. I want you to know. He wanted Mandela to condemn Muammar Gaddafi, Fidel Castro, Yasser Arafat, right there on TV. Mandela said, well, these people helped me when apartheid was on the rise. I dealt with them out of necessity, so I do not apologize. You hear? Though it grieves me to see the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my bed to curtail my rest. I've been tortured and suffered immensely they isolate me, incarcerate me. Still in spite of the barbarous cruelty, I will never apologize for my identity. Yeah. Tell them. Oh, yo, yo. And then he said, no apology for my color. It is part of me. I'm wearing it bravely with honor, pride and dignity. How can I say sorry for a birthright made proud by my forefathers? A skin that blends with the darkness of night, yet distinguishes me from others. There were times I know because of it, tears of sorrow had filled my eyes. But the Lord made me free in spirit, and I do not apologize. You hear? Though it brings me to see the people suffering, chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my neck to curtail my rest. They subject me to gross inhumanity, brutality, hostility. Yet no matter how rough they treated me, I will never apologize for my identity. Will you apologize to anybody for your identity? Neither will I. And then he said, I owe no apology. Personally, I have done no wrong. And what I have endured physically has made me more strong. How can I be ashamed of a mind that refuses to be twisted? A heart as warm as the morning sunshine, a character so gifted with these trials and tribulations. I am fulfilling destiny in my quest for emancipation. I owe no apology. You hear? Though it brings me to see all the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my neck to curtail my rest. I've had my share of pain and misery. It was ghastly, downright nasty. They try hard, but they fail miserably. Cause I've never apologized for my identity. Mandela, Amanda, the last thing he said was, no apology for my culture. It suits me fine. The folklore of all my ancestors makes me feel sublime. I am not repentant of a music that expresses how I feel. The sweet melodies come from deep in the soul, enriching all my ideals. He said the rhythm does give me courage, and the lyrics does make me wise. So in spite of all the advantage, I will not apologize. You're here. Though it brings me to see all the people suffering, but chains of bondage have been placed on my head to impede my progress. And then the man said, thorns and thistles have been laid on my neck to curtail my rest. Their exercises were in futility. That's when they gave me psychotherapy. But they surrendered. Why now I'm shouting victory? Never apologize for my identity. see.
I will never apologize for my identity. I will never apologize for using the language of my people, our first language. I will never apologize for the wisdom of our people. The mighty sparrow himself. When all things are right and when all things are wrong, when we are up and when we're down, we turn to the wisdom of our folk. Mighty sparrow is one of our folk. And when earlier this week, I lifted a phrase, 2 words, from the annals of our folk language, Creolese, and I made it talk for me. Thank God tonight, all over Guyana, people of my kind are using those 2 words to point to the devil. To the devil. A good evening. Whether they are bootlickers or whatever liquors, whether they're scratching back and you scratch me, whatever. Our folk language is full of descriptive words and phrases to describe them. I will never apologize for my color. I will never apologize for my identity. I will never apologize for using the language of my people. And I will never apologize to anyone who is trying to re-enslave my people. And I take out my cultural ammunition and point it straight at them and say, over my dead body, you can try, but I'm going to push back. I don't have guns. I don't have weapons, but I have a stronger weaponry. And that is the word that pierces the skies and the earth and the mind and the body and skin you all up. Good evening to all of you. I love you all. Thanks to all of you who have sent me all the emails, the text messages, the calls. I couldn't get to all, but I know that I speak for tens of thousands of you. When I stood up at the gate and said, Peter, wait, let me deal with Ifura. Let me deal with Satan. Peter, wait. Peter, you wait. Peter, you wait. Wait, Peter, wait. I know that I speak for tens of thousands of you. Those who say that I acted in frustration, they don't know me. They don't know me. My plan, and the Spirit tell me when, and the Spirit stirred in me on that Monday evening, and I give it to them. And I knew when me throw me card, me didn't call any foul, but me know the yard fouls, they would have picked it up. And they pick it up and they spread it to the 4 corners of the earth. Everybody, young and old, are singing One of my friends told me she wake up this morning and one of the liquors was passing and she little picnic there by the road. Are you liquor? Good evening. Welcome to Politics 101. I love you all. This is what you call struggle in motion. They can't stop us. They can't stop us. You think they're concerned with the language? They're concerned with the language mean. And all of we know what it means. All of we know what it means. I love you all. And I know that you all love our collective because we have a job to do. And we will not be moved. We will not be moved. In boxing, we just sing, if you follow the boxing people, you get fever. If you follow the boxing people, you get fever. If you follow the boxing people, you get fever. And your fever will never recover. I will depanam and I will stay panam. Licky bottoms. Lick bottoms. And you can take it and turn it wrong, show it wrong, but we get them. Oh, we're going to go to the ERC, cry a baby. We're going to take the evidence to the ERC. The ERC, me mama. The ERC, me daddy. The ERC, me daddy, me mama. You going to carry the evidence to the ERC. The evidence has crossed the line. Are you show me the line? And the evidence, why did he call me? Batilika. Cry a baby. When they are, remember all week last week we're talking about the threat of force rather than force? You know, they think I will come with gun and I will come with this. So now we clap it on them. Words are stronger than guns sometimes. And in this time, and the word get them basidi. And I didn't say, oh, they are going over and they are making us sad. Me say no, them a lick bottom. All Guyanese understand what that means. Because Creolese is the first language. Before we say I took, went and came, we say, have we been there? Have we learned? So I don't give a damn. I have not been in the struggle for justice for 50 years for anybody to tell me what language I must use. I choose my language and I have license to do it. Because them, Anog and Panog and Janog, had it not been for people like me, who stood up, went to jail, they would not have a voice today. They can kiss my ass, Anog. And you all can carry them now and say, Prophet David is using inflammatory language. He said, kiss my ass. And you can kiss my black ass. Good night and welcome to Politics 101. All right, let me bring in Doctor, because Dr. kill himself and laugh then. You want very ready for talk. He laugh out the neighbor string.
No, I could listen. I could listen all night. I could. And the reason is not because it's funny, because it's a serious matter. You know, Doc. You need to stand tall. You speak the language of the people. and you sing the voice of the people, those who cannot speak for themselves. You are that voice, Dr. Hines. A lot of a lot of folks, a lot of us would like to say the same thing. Some are scared to say it, and some don't know how to say it, or they do not have the platform to say it. So, guess what happens? People like yourself are the intent is to silence that voice. I remember going way back when the AFC was considering with Kemrad Ramjatan initially, when they were considering joining the PNCR and the coalition. I remember Kemraj being worried, he and I had this conversation as to what he was going to be called by his PPP folks. And you know the name that they call. What's the name again? Yeah,
Nimakaran.
Quran. And I still believe that that was the reason why, in the first instance, and I think it was 2011, they did not come into the coalition, or we did not come into the coalition. I wasn't a member of the party at that time. But so I think it's all intended to silence the voice that speak for the people. That's all this is about. They're speaking to their audience, but I think that you need to stand tall. You're speaking the language of of the people. I mean, and you're speaking for them, those who are unable, who do not have the platform, and who are not in a position to speak up. We know what happens in Guyana. If you only raise your head, or say anything that is not liked by certain parts of society or the government, you're punished for it. So I think that you stand out, and that is the voice that people rely upon, and you cannot let it be silent.
And Doc, you see the problem, and they're pretending they don't know what the issue is. The issue is this. Very simply. I fought for the right to join whatever party you want to join from. I was once in the 70s and 80s, if you joined the WPA, you were in trouble, right? And we fought for the right for people to join whatever party they want to join. And I don't give a rat's ass if my brother James or whoever else decide they want to go to the PPP. That's their personal business. I don't care, all right? I also don't care if the PPP wants to go to Buxton or wherever and recruit members. I don't care. I wish them luck, all right? But that's their right, and I fought for that right. I fought for that right. I do not, I'm not against young black men getting contracts. That is what we are fighting for. We are fighting for them to get contracts. We are fighting for them to get a share of the pie. We are fighting for them to get jobs. What I'm against is the PPP going into the black community and saying, we will give you a contract. We will give you a job, but you got to first put on a red jersey. And then you come over here and we will parade you like they used to parade you on the slave plantation. That is what I am fighting. Because that is not democracy. That is slaveocracy. All right? That's plantocracy. Democracy says you go in and you sell your ideas, and people say, I like your idea or I don't like your idea. But you don't take the people's money, go to them and say, hi, come, look at $2 million and put on a red jersey and come over here and give you your vote. No, that is not democracy, and that is not right. And that is what I am fighting, and that is what all of us must fight. You know what happens? Professor Clive Thomas reminded us today at our WPA executive meeting. He said, when young people start trading the vote for $1 million, $500,000, a fried rice, after a time, the meaning of the vote is gone, and you are never going to get it back. Once people come to believe that the vote is something you can sell and buy and get a frick for it, they don't take it seriously after then. And the entire country would suffer. I almost holler. I said, see why? Clive Thomas, that is why wisdom is so important. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Because that is what the PPP is doing to our country. They are making the vote cheap among black people. And what that means is that black leaders will never be able to win an election because their people no longer see the vote as sacred. They see the vote as something that you can sell at the marketplace. And that is what we are facing, comrades. That is what we are facing. And the PPP knows that is what we are facing, and they know that I'm leading the fight against that in the public space. I know some of us are leading the fight privately among young people, trying to reason with them. But I wanted to dramatize it in the public space and let them know that it ain't gonna happen just so. My brother,
let me add here, Dr. Hines. And unfortunately, we try to use race as a reason behind every single thing. Anybody who accuses you of being a racist is being disingenuous, unless they don't know you. And the young people, even before I met you, Dr. Hines, I read your stuff. I followed you and the group that you used to be, even the WPA. I had when I was at UG, I had a few. I remember a few Ramsamy and those folks used to be. I used to knock. They used to invite me to. We had a staff cricket team, by the way. I'm sure Dr. Thomas could remember. And because I was a young cricketer, national player, they used to want me to play and come and play with them and stuff like that. But my point is, Dr. Hines, you've earned your stripes, and let me tell you why. So anybody who accuses you of being a racist, don't they understand that you were the forefront of even fighting the Bonham administration? How could you call somebody like yourself real? And if you listen to you, and you've said it many times, and I know that is a fact. Had it been the Indians be suffering the same fate, you would have spoken out for them. That's a fact. So when you hear all this kind of stuff, because you're speaking for the downtrodden, and then people are using this whole racist context behind it, it's disingenuous, or they just don't know you. And but let the record speak for itself. You battled with the Bonham administration for what you thought were the same type of disparities being meted out to a certain section of the community. That's a fact.
And that is why I'm saying today that when I look back at that period and I look at the two parties, the PNC has changed for the better and the PPP has changed for the worse. I don't think the PPP get any redeeming to redeem themselves. And that is why I say today that I am not fighting another black brother. I'm not fighting Burnham. I'm not fighting Hoyt. I'm not fighting Granger. I'm not fighting Nigel Hughes. I'm not fighting Aubrey Norton. Because my friends back then, who used to fight Burnham like the devil, they are now hugging up their devil, hugging up the ones over there, and they want me to fight Burnham, although he's down in the grave. Oh no, I stopped that. I stopped that. I stopped that. I'm not saying that I will not be critical of black leaders in the future. But for now, wait, Dorothy, wait. I'm not attacking a black brother, a black sister. I am not attacking you. But when you shed your ancestral blackness and you go for counterfeit blackness, a counterfeit blackness are going to be on you day and night. It is not about Brother James or whoever else, but it's what the PPP is using them for. I think some of these guys may be genuine. They may say, "Boy, I can go over there and I can get a minister work, I can get this work." God bless them. But when you are being used to say to the innocent little boy and girl in the village who don't have a job, and they're using you to say, "Look what James get, look what Peter get, look what Tom get, all you come, all you're gonna get just like that." Knowing that they're bringing these little boys and girls to trade their vote for a penny, and the next thing they will do is put guns in those little boys' hands and say, "Go for Dr. Adams, go for Norton, go for Ogunse, go for David Hines." That is what I am fighting. That is what I am fighting. And they know that. They know that. They know that it is a sinister plan. I have seen their blueprint. They're targeting 20,000 young black people. And they feel they can get 10,000 young black people by buying their votes. 10,000 is 2 seats. They're targeting 20,000. They're hoping to get 1,000. We live in a small country. These things leak. And I know what they're doing. I know what they're doing, and that is why I'm mobilizing you all to stop them from doing it. If you don't want to vote for one, we fine. Some other reason say you're voting for your mama who dead, or your daddy who dead. Fight, say you're voting for your picnic who ain't born yet. Find some reason not to sell your vote to those scoundrels and to give your vote to us. We are not perfect. We made mistakes, plenty mistakes. But it is better to rumble with me. You are more likely to be treated as human beings by us than by them over there. And that is the message I want you all to take to the length and the breadth of Guyana. The length and the breadth of Guyana. And I am saying that once young people and the people stand with us when we get government, I am saying, I, David Hines, will fight with the same kind of venom to ensure that we look after you all, and never again would anybody feel they can come and buy you all for a penny. That is my mission, Dr. Adams.
No, you see the other thing, that the other problem that we have is that a lot of people cannot handle honest discussion and transparent, discussions. Like you with you, a person like you get what you see, whereas other people would be, just deep within themselves. It's just a show, a front for the way that they feel. And those is the people like yourself that are great leaders, that you can trust, rather than people are thinking one way and doing something totally different. Like a lot of folks in the opposition, we know that for a fact, that they say one thing to make everybody feel nice, and then they do something totally different. So you were one of the most, if not the most honest commentators, political commentators and political activists, in Guyana, bar none. So, like I said before, the whole intention here is to silence the voices such as yourself, because if you're gone, then who's going to speak up? So that's the whole intent. If they, I mean, you see that that's a pattern. That look at the people, and it's the few people that they're going after all the time. And if they can silence those voices, then they thought that they will be the home free, because there will be no other voices to really oppose them in public. And that's the whole strategy.
That's
So we cannot give up As long as the one thing that I've grown up with, my one fun, fundamental philosophy, Dr. Hines, is as long as you know that you're right, and and you're not a cheat, you're not dishonest, you don't steal, you don't do things that are outside of that zone of rightness. It doesn't matter what anybody say. I'm going to keep plodding, I'm going to keep going along in that direction, and right will always prevail. I always believe that it may take time, but it will always prevail.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're
You
vicious
know,
over there, man.
yeah,
They're vicious. I mean, they went to the length to say, black people don't worry, David Hines, he ain't coming back to Guyana, he fooling you all. He buy a big house in
yeah,
America.
yeah. No, yep, no, that's that. But you can, and the whole intent again is to discourage and to let you remove off the scene, and
Yes,
we
yes.
cannot do that.
Everything
We
they
cannot
try.
do that.
Everything.
We
Doctor,
cannot do that.
um, while all of this is going on, the very serious business is there, and I want us to weigh in on some of it tonight. Transparency International, in their report, their 2024 report, said that the PPP has been captured by the economic and political elites. And that is what is driving the misappropriation of resources, the illicit entrenchment, and environmental crime. Serious words. And it's not coming from David Hines. It's not coming from Norton. It's not coming from Amanza Walton. It's not coming from Nigel Hughes. It's coming from Transparency International and the Corruption Index 2024 report. You are one of our experts on this matter. Please speak to us and tell us what this report means.
And you see, what's interesting, Dr. Hines? It happens. It came out the same week that this whole thing with you, they're going after you. Says it's a major distraction to get away from it, as far as I'm concerned. Yesterday, the president himself came out yesterday in full force, and I thought he would have gotten a heart attack, with the way he was behaving there, in terms of going after Transparency International. But not to repeat what you said, it's a very serious report that people ought to take very seriously, because among a whole lot of other things that they said, Dr. Hand, besides what you said there, they pointed out, the emphasis, the report highlights how corruption is a significant barrier to good governance and equitable development of the country. Those are powerful words. A barrier to good governance and equitable development of the country. Equitable. Mark the word. Equitable development of the country. Isn't that what we've been talking about all the time? Isn't it about equity? That's what's in that report. But let me give you the raw numbers. Between and the report identified from 2012, which was under the 4 years, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, the index was all within the 20s. When the coalition took over, within that 4 or 5 years period, it rose to 41, from 29 to 41. That's an increase of over 41% increase in those 4 years. And it was on a steep incline, and then it stagnated, and now it's starting to decline back under the PPP. So it's not anything that, like you said, this is not coming from me or you or anybody else. And then the vice president yesterday went and wanted to berate Transparency International, trying hard to let us forget about why they're arriving at that conclusion. He wants us to forget about Sugate. He wants us to forget about what's her name, and Mia May, whatever her name is, Brutus.
May Thomas.
May Thomas. He wants us to forget about Brutus, about the projects that are being awarded to people who have no qualification for these projects and are wasting money. when we're wasting over 40% of the money that we're spending on contracts, and that didn't come from us, it come from an incredible international organization. Even in the president owned 530 meeting, couldn't believe your eyes that one man stood there and said he has bid on two contracts. He has bid on two. And you know what the president was there, he laughed and lauded him and said, well, you got to be really brave to stand up here. And that was the end of it. And then, of course, the recent scandal with the resignation of Mr. Greaves with the land issue. Now, and if you think that Transparency International is the only organization, let's go with the World Justice Project report, which I've been talking about in the past. It's consistent with the World Justice Project report. They themselves, when they looked at the corruption index, we within the region of 14 countries, including Haiti, Dr. Hines, we have done twice worse than the average in the Caribbean, twice as worse as the average in the Caribbean, even worse than Haiti in the World Project report. So this is not something that we're making up or is something new. Even in the rule of law, in following the rule of law, as evaluated by the World Justice Project report again, we scored 50 out of 100 and ranked 76 out of 142 countries. So this here is not anything that we're making up, Dr. Hines. But again, getting back to the conclusion, it hampers the equitable development of this country and gets into the way of governance. So that's what we're doing. So I plead with all Guyanese to not be distracted. This is a very serious report, and they understand how serious it is. That is why not the vice president, the president himself came out yesterday and tried to denigrate that report. And so we have to take it very seriously and not be distracted from it. Doc.
Myself off. I was trying to be cute and get Doc on by himself and so on and so forth. And I kept talking to myself. Good evening to all of you who are joining us, and welcome to Politics 101 on a Friday night with Dr. Vincent Adams. We are, of course, doing what we do every Friday night, Friday evening for some of you, Friday afternoon for some of you. We are continuing. Doc, something happened this week, and I want us to talk for a minute about it, because when things happen so fast in Guyana, we miss some small things. The president went to talk to the army, and he raised vote with the army. He tell them they must vote for democracy. You have no business,
nope,
as commander-in-chief,
nope,
to be telling the army about vote.
Nope.
You see how things does come around when Takoma Ogunsi says that if the army turns its gun away from the people, the struggle will be over. They put chains and things on the feet and gone. Here is the president doing what they're saying that Ogunsi was attempting. He's going and raising the question of vote with the army. Your thoughts?
No, absolutely. That's highly despicable, and on becoming of a president. But I wonder sometimes if it's just through ignorance and the guy is so much immature, because in no democratic law-abiding country you would find the president or any senior official, even within the small agencies or small organizations, you're not allowed as a government official. You're not allowed to even talk politics within the workplace, or even indicate anything about politics. You're not allowed that, or else you'll be you'll be disciplined for it, and even lose your job in the where I came from, where I used to work. But that's the kind of lawlessness. But even under the coalition, that also was not, when I ran the EPA agency, we made certain, and the staff was even trained to that. We never used to discuss politics. We know that it's simmering on the, but it was never like open discussion, or no official would come in and say, vote for democracy and all that type of stuff. But that's what we're dealing with here. Unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with. It. And it's gonna, it's gonna get worse if if things if they get back into power. It's really gonna get, because they're gonna take that as a mandate now to even go beyond.
To go beyond. Doctor, there's been no oil reserves update for 3 years. There have been 20 discoveries in that time. The last update that was that we have $11 billion, 11 billion barrels of oil, in contrast to updates immediately following these discoveries. So you've had 20 discoveries since then, no update. Even the other day, Hess and I think Exxon were arguing about how many barrels were in one of the blocks there. Professor Clive Thomas has said that in his research, it is upwards of 24 billion barrels. It could be as many as 30 billion barrels of oil. But there has been no update for 3 years, just as the census, which should have been updated since 2022, no update. No update on the census, no update on how many barrels of oil reserve we have. Talk to me.
Oh, let me tell you something. This here is something that this here is also a very, very serious matter, because again, this all belongs to the people, Dr. Hines. Okay? This is our bank book, Dr. Hines, and it's just as if somebody has your bank book, but you don't know how much is in your bank book. They've got full control. This oil and its money belongs to the people. And you cannot look, you recall when, for the first few years, when Exxon arrived, and after every discovery, we were getting an update immediately as to what that field, how much oil was in that field, immediately. And now it's been 3 years. Look, that used to be part of my job. I made a living off as a petroleum reservoir engineering, doing reserve estimates. And from the time you drill a well, you can make some rough estimates, because even while you're drilling, you've got to make some determination as to whether you should continue drilling based on the depth, etc. You can make some basic calculations, but then it doesn't take that long afterwards to go and refine those calculations, looking at various parameters such as geology and those type of. It does not take 3 years to give you an estimate. It does not take 3 years. And when you hear when you hear the vice president and the minister of natural resources now singing Exxon's tune, they're moving from one excuse to the next. First, you remember the first excuse was, well, we're focusing on marketing. Well, that story has now run out. So now they now got a new story that they're peddling for Exxon, which is, well, it would be in Exxon's best interest to declare the reserves to get investors. Well, it's also in the Exxon business for a lot of other reasons, such as if you look at the formula for the decommissioning cost that is being deducted by Exxon, that goes into their bank account, not ours. So they're deducting money from the oil revenues that goes into their bank account for the commission that will occur maybe 20, 30 years from now. And if you look at that formula is like this. It says before the project is approved, the minister has to approve an estimate for what the decommissioning cost, meaning the decommissioning cost is after you finish producing and everything else, you've got to abandon the wells, you've got to plug the wells, put it back in a safe environmental mode. So before they start producing, they've got to have an approval from the minister in terms of that estimate as to what it's going to cost. Then you divide that estimate by the amount of reserve, and then you multiply that answer by the production rate. So if you look at the numbers, the bigger the reserve estimate, the less money that would be withdrawn for them to keep. So does that have anything to do with it? Okay, let's assume that that's not the case, which is it has to be some reason why they're withholding this information. So what we must demand, Dr. Hines, like I said, the data belongs to us. Even the contract says the data belongs to us. We, the government, must, because every time you ask Exxon, you know what's Exxon reason? Exxon said, well, we're submitting quarterly reports. That's their answer to the government. The government must release those quarterly reports.
That's it.
It doesn't belong to them.
That's it.
And I don't want to hear this foolishness from the vice president saying that it's too complicated. It might be too complicated for him. They must release the quarter reports, because that's where they've got to report on all of the details, and they must release the field development plans. There's a field development plan for each project that has the details as to how they're going to extract, how much oil they're going to extract, and it has all a tick document has all the details. He's also, when people ask for that, he say, well, it's too complicated and nobody's going to understand. So that quarterly report is that they report on the status of of those FDPs. They report on the status of those FDPs. So they'll have to release the FDPs and the quarterly reports to see what is the status of where we're going. So, that's what we should demand. The people should demand. This here is our bank account, not the government bank account. And if somebody seizing your bank account, and you don't even know how much is in your own bank account, they're controlling your account. And it's a serious matter. We should demand the release. And don't tell me nonsense about proprietary information. There's nothing proprietary in those documents. And secondly, do they really believe that Exxon is going to put proprietary information into Barrett Jagdio's hands or into this government hands? You think that they're going to put their secret information in this government hands? So we need, Dr. Hines, the one thing that and I'm hoping that even in this needs to be a campaign issue, that they must release these documents, the quarterly reports and the field development plans.
The quarterly report and the field development plan, Dr. Vincent Adams, here this evening. I want to share with you all a letter written by a prominent medical doctor, Dr. Janice Imhoff, who I am reliably informed is a faithful viewer of this program. And she wrote a letter to the editor of the newspapers, and it was shared with me. So I want to read it for you. Dear Mr. Editor, recently on the online talk show, Politics 101, Professor David Hines used two words, lick bottom. He, as a political activist for the working class, gave his reasons. It is my opinion that those two words represent the same sentiment delivered in the public domain some years ago by two other prominent Black political activists, both now of blessed memory. One was by Andaye, a Bishop High School old student who became a working class political activist and who years ago penned a letter in Stabrook News titled, Not in My Name. The other by Dr. Walter Rodney, a Queens College old student who was a distinguished scholar and historian. He once said, I'm ashamed of Black people and the way they're behaving. It might be argued that the circumstances were different. That may be so. But was the intention and sentiment of both not the same as David Hines? The two Black leaders spoke in English language and were not dissected. David Hines spoke in Guyanese Creole, also known as Creolese. David Boy, me take and say that when you're there a bad luck, wet pepper, wet pepper self does cut you. David Boy, me take and see that when you do When you're there a bad luck, wet pepper self does cut you. Quite a profound piece of wisdom there by Dr. Janice off. And, she points to something there, Doctor, in the nature of a society which we don't talk about. She said, my other two comrades who I knew well, and I was present when those statements were made. Dr. Walter Rodney made that statement at Durban and Wiseau in 1977, and I made that statement in 2002. And they both spoke in English language. Nobody didn't go after them and say grass line. But when I talk in the people's language, if you people will cut you. I mean, she points to something, and Dr. Imhoff is someone who's advocating for the teaching of Creolese in schools. She once made a point at a conference that I attended last year, and she presented a paper. She was making the point that our children are not doing well in English. And we don't take into consideration that the English is not their first language. Their first language is Creolese. In St. Lucia, they teach both. They teach French Creole and they teach English. When I went for the first time to Curacao, the average Curacao person speaks 4 languages. They speak English, they speak Spanish, they speak Dutch, and they speak Dutch Creole. And when I got to that hotel and checking in, and that little girl in the front desk, waxing 4 different languages, I felt so small because all I could talk is my so-called English. And it was at that point that I decided I'm going to make Creolese part of my active form of communication so that I can arm myself at least with 2 languages. And what it has shown is that when you teach young people, children, both the Creole language and the so-called standard English, the English language improves. Because if you look at, English language said, I was there. Creolese, we said, me been there. Same construction. I was there. Me been there. Different words, same construction. So when the kids come to learn their initial, their mother language, their mother tongue, they eventually do well in better in English. That is something for us to think about. They didn't have to go to a dictionary to know what lick bottom mean. They didn't have to go into Google for Google lick bottom. Because it's their native language. And as we are moving deeper into the 21st century and dealing with the crisis of education, maybe that is something that we ought to look at. You have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, and that's a great letter, by the way. But you see, I look at it simpler and deeper than that, Dr. Hines, because 1,000 other folks could have said exactly the same that you said, and nobody would have even paid attention.
That's right.
So that's the way I look at it. It's that voice. It is that voice, that powerful voice that tells it like it is, that scares these folks. And remember, we got to look at the context. This here is a critical period of time. We're getting into an election, Dr. Hines. And guess what that does? It brings the truth to the people to let them understand what they're dealing with. It's a mobilization tool, if you will. And it brings into perspective those people who are now learning and understanding what the heck is going on. You do a great job to explaining it in very simple terms, in their language. That's what's scary. You remember even in the civil rights movement, you remember the worst thing, the nightmare, the biggest nightmare thing that threatens the old system was for Black people to be able to read or write. It's the same. It's the same thing. as people are comprehending, and you bring that knowledge to the folks in very simple language, in their language. That's the scary part. So I understand all this thing about Creolese and all that stuff, but hell, when I'm sure when Dr. Rodney and the other person said it, it really nobody paid much attention to it. But
Yes.
now, because of this powerful voice, and people are listening to you, is creating some fear, and that's to me, that's what it's more about it more than anything else.
Thank you very much, Dr. Janice Imhoff. So you all learn one it tonight. When you're there bad luck, with pepper self does cut
Well,
you. With pepper self does cut you. I never heard of one before, you know.
I never hear that one. I never hear.
You know, Dr. Imhoff, she has made this thing our lifelong mission, you know. You know, when you're there bad luck, with pepper self does cut you. For the wisdom,
Yeah.
for the wisdom of our people. That's why I love being this color. Because they have left this world. It's not that other colors are not important. They all contribute to the wisdom of the world. But for a people who were once designated as chattel, as non-people, to have this kind of wisdom, when you're their bad luck, where people say, forgot you. There's deep philosophy. People, Socrates and Plato and them spend 40, 50 years to come up with that.
Yeah.
Our people were able to come out with that in their own experience. I love being back, and I make no apologies. Not one apology for my identity. Not one apology for my identity. Dr. Adams, Mr. Routledge, you know, he had some words recently, basically saying that he would be satisfied, or that we, Guyanese, should be satisfied with our paltry profit, sharing, and the royalty, and we shouldn't press the case of taxes. Your thoughts?
Oh, and you know, I've tired of speaking about this guy who's just totally disrespectful of the Guyanese people. Look, I don't need anybody to lecture me about having investors, because that was part, you know, parts and parcel of how we operated where I came from. So in bringing in investors, they're welcome, but when they come into your country, and he understands that, he worked in the United States, and he know what the rules are. When you go into communities and states, you know, you better abide by the rule of the people, and you better be good customers to those people. That's what they call themselves, good customers. But you don't come in here and want to take over and rule. Let me tell you, the guy before him, his predecessor, Rod Henson, one of the toughest negotiators there is, a company man, for example. But the guy was very respectful of authority, meaning the government of Guyana. But from the day that Rutledge came in, I don't know if you remember, because I had spoken about it and talked about it, because this was after I left. Rutledge threatened when they started flaring. Rutledge threatened that the country was so badly in need of money that they had to flare. And if we didn't like it, they were going to take their business someplace else. He said that, Dr. Hines, that they're going to. So it's the arrogance of this guy. So he comes in here now. He holds a press conference. So, of course, the whole issue always comes up with renegotiating the contract for us to get more. Well, we know we're getting a little bit less than 14.5%. That's what we're getting. This man is telling people that we're getting 52%. That's impossible for us to get 52%, even when you paid off all of your capital costs and investment costs. It's an impossibility, because cost all would then be on your operating costs. You got to deduct your operating costs out of your out for cost all. So it's impossible for you to get anything probably over 40%. It's impossible. And he's still telling people. Here's what he told them this week. He said, I mean, it's insulting. He said, well, y'all basically y'all talking about taxes. You should stop talking about taxes because you're already getting your royalty and your profit sharing that adds up to 52%, which is absolutely false and a blatant lie. And then he asked a question which is very insulting. He said, um, insultingly, would you rather have 25% income tax or 52% plus of revenues effective taxes? That is a blatant lie. He even put up a billboard that says that we're getting 52%. And when I spoke about it, even Bharat Jagyo agreed with me that it was misinformation. And until now, I don't think that they've removed the billboards. And here's another thing that he says. He's saying that the government of Guyana does not invest. Even the minister said that we do not invest, Minister Barrett. That is absolutely false. Because if we had if each project was isolated, which we had ring fencing, we would have been finished paying for at least two projects, which meaning that we would have gotten that capital cost would have been removed from cost style. We would have been getting much more than we're currently getting. But because we do not have ring fencing, that money that we would have been getting up front is going back into Exxon pocket for them to invest. So this whole nonsense about us not investing, we are investing because we do not have ring fencing. And then you hear even the vice president himself is saying, well, we giving up that money up front. Now, what giving up that money up front means is that money that we're supposed to be getting is being reinvested. So stop this nonsense and falsity and misinformation and a pack of lies, lying to the people, because I think it's dishonest and I think it's very disrespectful for this guy to be coming in here and taking us to be fools, because everything he's telling us is a pack of lies. It's impossible for us to get 52%. That's a fact.
Dr. Vincent Adams here tonight, weighing in on what's happening in the oil sector. I would like to thank Ian France for his contribution to Politics 101. Lynette Greenwood, my sister from Annandale, thank you very much for your contribution, my dear. And Rosamond Pollard, thank you so much for your contribution. I know I have two other people, and I'm looking at my desk. Never ever want to be a professor and a political activist at the same time. You get all kind of paper and all kind of little piece thing, throw it and throw it and so on and thing. You know what I'm talking about. You may be but no, you scientists tend to be neat. You tend to have your papers in order. That before we go, the Suriname-Guyana border issue has raised its head again. There was this meeting, Guyana had a representative there, and the Venezuelans were distributing a map of the New River as part of their territory. What's happening here?
Well, I can tell you, and I'm glad that this in a sense that this story is resurfacing again. I've never told this story before, so this is for the first program that I'm going to be talking about here, Dr. Hines. In 2019, when Suriname had made the discovery, so we went down with the team of from the foreign ministry, Ambassador George, I think it's George is the guy's name, who was the ambassador to Suriname, Ambassador Harper. I went down as a technical person with them to meet with the Suriname government to discuss, because their oil is lined up right next to our border offshore. Their blocks are right next to our border, and of course, oil reservoirs below the ground does not see state boundaries. Okay, they can straddle boundaries, and who knows if they straddle boundary, or even with directional drilling, I can drill miles away from that boundary and direct that well over into your territory. Okay, so I asked for this meeting, so we got down there, and the company give a big presentation, and I asked the question. I said, how much directional drilling are you guys doing that may go under our territorial boundaries and tap into our reservoir, or is what type of how close are we in terms of even reservoirs crossing these boundaries? And we made an agreement. They said, well, we had a good discussion, technical discussion, and we agreed to share information. They were going to send us their well data, etc., for me to evaluate. So guess what happened, Dr. Hines? When they sent the first set of information, they didn't have the well data yet. It was just introductory information. On the letterhead, they had the map with the disputed area. They had the Guyana territory into their map, and we unanimously agreed that we're gonna break off any communication until that map is changed. This was in 2019, Dr. Hines, and I after I left, I brought it to the attention of a couple of senior members of the foreign ministry, and I tell them, do not let this go, because this is a serious matter in terms of drilling oil and tap them, possibility of we need to open these negotiations. And there's a way that you handle these things. If a reservoir strategy, you can do like a joint production agreement and that type of stuff. But if you don't, they can tap into our reservoir and take our oil, and we do not even know. So it's a serious matter.
It's a very serious matter.
So now that this has come up again, I am glad that this has been raised. And this is the first time on your show, Dr. Hines, that I'm revealing this information. Because it's very serious. We need to pay attention. I'm not saying that it will happen, but at least we need to let them understand, which is what I did when we had the meeting. The meeting that we had in Suriname, they had 3 ministers. They took it very seriously. They had 3 ministers there in that meeting, and our senior person was was Miss Harper and Ambassador George. So I'm glad it came up again, because this is a serious matter in terms of how do we, for us to be sure that we're getting that our oil is not being taken. And I remember, these are the kinds of things that even happen in the Middle East. I remember when I was in graduate school and I was working, and my senior professor, he was a consultant to Libya. And so he was developing their water fields. Oil is more precious than water, by the way, in that part of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So so I was helping him design the water fields for Libya in the Sarir and Kufra water fields, because they wanted to agriculturize the desert to produce food. Gaddafi wanted to do that, and it was a big issue. It almost caused a war in terms of how we had to design the wells, so you don't suck water from the other countries, across the border. It's a very serious issue. So the same thing could happen here. I'm not saying that they're going to do that.
It's a possibility.
But we need to let them on. We need to go and get the information and start the discussion.
Dr. Vincent Adams here tonight. I want to thank the Jameses, Esther and Kenrick James, for your contribution. Again, thank all of you who have made contributions and continue to make contributions to our program. We are eternally grateful. Thank you all so much. And Doc, always thank you very much. You could have been doing anything on a Friday night, but here you are. I know last week Friday you were in the snow partying.
Yeah, but I never expected that it would have snowed that badly. I had a car. I could not even drive the car. I had to ask a friend to come get me. They had like 7 inches of snow that evening.
Yeah, we were following it. We were following it. Thank you very much. I'll see you on Sunday, I imagine.
Yes.
All right. And to you, the audience, thank you very much. Remember, the motto is, we are not apologizing. There is nothing, absolutely nothing to apologize for. So until Monday, when I see you again for Politics 101, have a great weekend. And for those of you who are into cricket, I will see you all on Sunday. And remember, when you're there bad luck, wet pepper self does cut you. When you're there a bad luck, wet pepper self does cut you. Thank you very much, Dr. Emma, for those words of wisdom and for the kind letter, which is loaded, very loaded, and continue to advocate for our first language, Creolese. Again, thank you all very much, and I will see you all on Monday.